We wrongly think that social media and marketing is an avenue for me to share what's important to me. Social media and marketing is an avenue for you to solve people's problems. You just think of it like that. Get rid of the word marketing and instead see yourself as a problem solver, and then your marketing results will skyrocket.
Hey, Smart Chiropractors. Welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show. In the featured guest segment, I am Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. And today, I am happy to reconnect with a fantastic chiropractor, an upbeat guy, and somebody that knows a ton about how you can improve the growth of your practice. And we are talking from around the world, Dr. Angus Pyke, host of Marketing Your Practice podcast and creator of Video Influence for Chiropractors. Angus, it's awesome to chat with you. It's been a while.
Hey, Jeff, and Jason, it's great to be here. Going back to our Puerto Rico days when we first originally met, certainly you and I, then Jason, I think Jason, we might have connected even a little bit before that as well. So thank you very much for having me on the podcast. It's nice to be here.
It's our pleasure. Anybody watching, I just want to call out, I have video envy. Your video looks absolutely clean and crisp, and I would expect nothing less because you're somebody that knows a ton about and helps so many chiropractors with video. I know so many docs out there, they're anxious and scared even just to get started. For our listeners that maybe know they should be creating some video, but haven't taken the first steps, where do they start?
It's a good question, and it's one I get asked all the time. And sometimes I come back, I remember this John Demartini saying this, that when you're trying to convince somebody of anything, you're already starting with an uphill battle. So sometimes people will say, look, I really want to do video, but I'm so scared, all these kind of things. Well, maybe video is not for you. So I know of chiropractors who are using social media and digital online marketing who are knocking it out of the park and have never made a video in their life. Video accelerates things, and it's new for most of us. And so firstly, if it feels a bit scary, then it's okay. I would be worried about you if it didn't feel scary. I might be concerned that you might be a narcissist or some form of sociopath. If you could put yourself in front of hundreds, if not thousands, maybe millions of people and not be a little concerned. I would also encourage people, I should get the name of this too. There were a couple of psychologists that did some research on imposter syndrome that found that the more we actually knew about something, the greater the imposter syndrome was that we experienced. So if you are feeling a little bit about that too, it's another healthy sign. So in terms of where do we begin, it's never been easier, which is kind of cool because you and I, to some extent, Jeff, are a bit kind of video geeks. Like I've got a beautiful camera that's sitting up here, but where you begin is with your iPhone. And this iPhone now, the 13 that I have, actually shoots better video than my first Canon 5D Mark II, which again, that setup there was like $8,000, 8,000 Aussie dollars. And now my iPhone does a better job. And then on top of that, 8 or 10 years ago when I started this, the sort of video that worked really well was a very highly produced video, in a studio, that type of stuff there too. That doesn't work now because there's a suspicion that our audience has, and when they see something that's highly produced, there's a background conversation in around, what are you hiding? And we want to see vulnerability. We want to see behind the scenes. We want to connect with people. And we particularly want to connect with a health practitioner, trust. When we interview people in our community and we talk to them about what are the decision-making factors that come into play when you want to choose a health practitioner, trust is right up the top there. Authority, expertise, and video where we get to show our emotions, show who we are behind the scenes, where we get to show up as us. We don't have to be perfect at all. We just have to be us. Video is a great way of doing that. Handheld, iPhone style selfie videos is where we begin. And we begin then, the next question often is, well, what sort of videos do I make? There are two sorts of videos that you make. I call them transformational videos and connection videos. And I'll explain what they are. The goal of a transformation video is very simple, and it's to get your audience one step closer to the outcome that they're looking for. So if you help mums get their kids to sleep through the night, colicky, unsettled mums, then maybe you start by sharing information that'll get them a step closer to that without even having to come in and see you. Maybe you talk about some of the foods that might be irritating, the role that breastfeeding has, different settling techniques. You be generous and you be helpful, and you combine information together that's going to help to get them a little closer to the health outcome that they're wanting. This builds trust. It's generous, it's going first, and it differentiates you from lots of the other people and practitioners that are online that are just talking about themselves all the time. We wrongly think that social media and marketing, for that matter, is an avenue for me to share what's important to me. Now, it could be if you want to. It won't be effective for you if you do that. Social media and marketing is an avenue for you to solve people's problems. You just think of it like that. Get rid of the word marketing and instead see yourself as a problem solver, and then your marketing results will skyrocket. So that's transformation videos. The other sort of videos that you should be making, and the vast majority of content that you should be making, is connection content. And connection content is about building relationships. It's social media. So there are 3 keys. If we're wanting to unlock a code, if people are failing with social media, they're missing one of these. They're missing either valuable transformational content in terms of where they're helping people. They're missing connection where they're building relationships with people. And then third and final, you're not making invitations. You're not telling people what to do next, inviting them into the practice. Hey man, if you've got a little baby and they're struggling to sleep through the night there too, I want to let you know over the last 20 years, we've had great success with this too. Give the office a call, 96461414. We'd really like to help you too. That's it. That's what an invitation looks like. There's nothing pushy about that. There's nothing sleazy about that. There's nothing needy about that at all. And when that's dovetailed at the end, when I've just shared really valuable information, I think it was, it'll come to me in a moment, but our community are silently begging to be led. Jay Abraham, that was one of his quotes there too. And so they need an invitation at the end. What to do next? Hey, if you've got a friend or a loved one that needs to hear this message, tag them down beneath. Like just something as simple as that, and people will follow through and do it. So again, the 3 ingredients to success on social media, okay, being valuable, that's your transformational content. Building connections, that's social content. I'll give you some examples of that in a moment there also. And then making invitations. So social sort of content. Just recently over on our socials for our practice, we've done little videos, and you've seen them before, 2 truths and a lie. So where our CA shares 2 things about herself that are true, one that's a lie, and we ask our community to try and guess what it is. And they love the heck out of it. It's heaps of fun. You know, we share what we did on the weekend. We talk about our favorite foods, our football teams. We behave the way that the 3 of us would, in fact, we would talk about chiropractic, and we were before we got started on here. But we behave the way that normal human beings do when they're the weekend at a party. But you can't do, if we just share connection content all the time, what ends up happening is we go, man, that Jason's a really lovely guy. I really like them. I'd like them to be my friend. But that doesn't encourage me to reach out you to be a chiropractor. That's where we miss that piece of. And then the same thing, if you're just sharing that transformational content all the time, I can see you as an authority, as an expert, but we don't have that relationship. I need to have that next level there. So the combination of all of those together, that's where you get started with video. That was a long answer, wasn't it?
A great one, though, and that's what we're here for. And that is the beauty of long format, which is very much the point, is what you described. Jeff and I have been teaching, to keep it simple for chiropractors, as a methodology we call TIC, T-I-C, teach and invite consistently, because obviously you got to teach them something. Your invitation message obviously is essential. And of course, the magic is in the consistency. Angus, I'm curious if you've figured out, what does it take for most chiropractors to make that switch? Somehow, I don't know what's happened over the years. We've sort of all been doing this, but early on in my, I guess, career, I'll say, it seemed like that there were a lot of chiropractors that were passionate about sharing and teaching chiropractic. They'd do healthcare classes, they'd do orientations, they'd go on site, and they would teach on a regular basis. There seems to be this trend that many chiropractors have sort of fallen into, that they don't have to do the teaching anymore. As you've said, the M word, they're now marketing their practice, which seems to give them this impression that, well, I don't have to do anything. I can just pay a marketer to do it for me. which is a whole different conversation and probably different in Australia as well. But I guess my question is, how have you found chiropractors able to make that mental shift from the desperation of needing new patients and having to market and into the generosity of having some sense of security and I don't know what other generosity, care, concern that most health professionals should have, that motivates them to want to teach, to put in the effort to do these videos that you just described all accurately and perfectly. How do you find chiropractors, or what do you think it is that more chiropractors need to sort of hear to go, I got it. Just like people go, I've been doing this all backwards. I shouldn't be taking the drugs for my pain to shut it up. I should be addressing the cause of the problem. There's that aha moment too for chiropractors to go, wait a minute, if I actually just taught people what to do and invited them and did that, I wouldn't need these cheesy marketing techniques that get deal shoppers into my practice all the time, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I love that question. And Jason, I think about that all the time. Like it is what I think about all the time. And so going back to when I think about what has happened with the expansion of the chiropractic profession, it really is to some degrees like that 6 degrees of separation. Most of our generation became chiropractors. Yes, we might have thought of it to be a good profession, and we might have liked the lifestyle and the income, but there was often an experience that happened very early on. And maybe that experience was just we spoke directly to an inspired chiropractor, or maybe we had results with chiropractic ourselves. I'm staggered how many people over here in Australia, students, end up in and studying chiropractic that have never been to a chiropractor before. Now, it's interesting on one side, but also it's to be expected. And I know this, I'm trying to think of another example there too, but obviously there will be, a lot of women who would choose to be cancer surgeons who've never had cancer. And so it's not a prerequisite that we have to have experienced the thing beforehand, but there needs to be a realization that there might be a dilution of passion that comes as we go forwards. Then in amongst that, there is the fantasy that, and it is a fantasy, of the build it and they will come. And somehow we as chiropractors have perpetuated that by from the stage, we have said similar sorts of things of, just help sick people get well and the practice will look after itself. These lines that are really catchy that us as chiropractors sit back there and go, yeah, it's really, and they are wonderful scripts for a movie, but they're really one terrible way for you to grow a practice. So I think that, first of all, that's what's happening in terms of why we're seeing these people. That's my take on it. Then the other realization part of, and I touched on this to begin with, I saw a quote recently that says, when you get between somebody and rock bottom, you end up getting squashed. Pain is a great motivator. And as chiropractors, we know that there's nothing wrong with pain. It's just a signal for a change of behavior. And sometimes people need to get to rock bottom. And I understand the fantasy again of it would be wonderful if somebody could come and take over the marketing for my business and just send me leads and customers. It would be so wonderful if somebody could nurture and love my wife for me and I could get all the benefits without the output. The same with my children. It'd be wonderful if somebody could practice my golf for me and I could just turn up on Wednesday and Saturday and shoot rip and scores. But to what I understand now, that's not how life works. So then in amongst that too, when we realize that sometimes rock bottom is necessary, and if our listeners are feeling that way now, my compassion is with you. There are many areas in my life where I've had rock bottom too. It's just wanting you to change. And there are some things I think in our life that we should never abdicate. Our health is one of them. We should never hand our health over to anybody, not your chiropractor. We need to be responsible for this. We should never delegate our finances, our family, and our marketing. That doesn't mean that you need to be doing everything. It doesn't mean you need to be editing your videos. That doesn't mean you need to be posting them, but you need to be, there's a difference between, most of us, when we delegate, we abdicate. We hand it all over to someone. I think it's what you were touching base on before. We need to be involved in it to some extent. Then, because one of the big realizations, another big realization I had, video influence was a course I first created maybe 8 years ago, and it's on its third complete re-record through it. And I thought in the early days, I showed people all the hows. Here's the equipment, here's how you hold it, here's how you film it, here's how you get good sound, here's what you say. I have a really, from go to woe of everything for you to do with the video. I put it out there, and I just thought what was stunning is people would buy it and to not do anything. I'm like, it's all there. I'm so detailed with this stuff. It's painful for me because I can't put something out there unless I know it just covers everything. And then I started to realize that in behind the actions that we take is a story that we're telling ourselves. And I'll share you a quick story. A beautiful woman I was working with who was really having difficulty moving forwards with making her videos, wanted to. And then when we were chatting about it in a coaching session, she said, I'm scared of being seen. And I said, tell me more about that. She said, there's a couple of things. She said, I used to swim a lot when I was little, and I was a little chubby and overweight as a kid. And I just remember a woman coming up to me once at the end of a swim meeting and coming up to me and kind of saying, well, you're a chubby, cute little kid. And that was the first thing that landed with her. Then some almost, 15, 18 years later, she was doing remember the Spice Girls? And they were doing a kind of Spice Girls performance thing. And she got off the stage, her and a bunch of buddies, and a guy walked past her as she came off the stage and said, I didn't realize the Spice Girls had a bloke in it. And at that moment, she told herself, I don't ever want to be vulnerable and seen in a situation like that again. And so she had that background story on. So she had two competing things. One, I want to make videos. And two, if I make videos, I'll get seen, and being seen is painful. So we had to do a little bit of work in unpacking the stories, and we had to write new stories. And when we wrote new stories, she became a video making machine. It wasn't, for so many of us, I love doing this. Before I'll take on a one-on-one coaching client, if it happens to be, and I coach around lots of different things, if it happens to be around practice growth, we might often sit there and go, well, Jason, what are all the things that you could do to grow your practice? We all come up with a list of 40 things that they're not doing. I'm like, you don't need me. You just listed them all out. Why aren't you doing them? Then we get into the heavy, the deep, and the important work. So going back to your question to begin with, I think we need to ask ourselves the question, why am I really not making videos? What am I scared of that will happen? What am I concerned about? Am I worried about being seen? Am I worried about rejection? And be compassionate with yourself. Don't beat yourself up. There is a part of inside all three of us that are sitting here now and our listeners too, that basically your brain wants three things. It wants to conserve energy. It wants to move towards pleasure, and it wants to move away from pain. And there will be an element that will go against all of those when you start anything new, especially when you start making videos. So be aware of all of that. Look at your background stories and understand that there might be other things going on that are stopping you from making videos.
Very, very well said, Angus. You're giving the most detailed answers to any other guest that we've had on. I absolutely love it. It is it's awesome. And with your experience, you've worked with so many chiropractors. As a chiropractor yourself, the practice, you've seen so many of these practice growth strategies and the different avenues that you can take and choose to market a practice. You've seen just about all of it. You have experience in so much of it. As you look forward throughout the rest of this year and into next, what are some interesting things that you see in practice growth, whether it's platforms, whether it's strategies? There are some things out there that docs can and should be aware of, either happening right now or maybe not the cutting edge, but just one step away from where we're at today.
Okay, so let's get a little bit kind of tactical. If I wanted to double my practice in the next 6 months, and even if I had a healthy size practice, the steps I would go through is I would first, inside of Jack Reese's book, 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, Jack Reese wrote with somebody else, it doesn't matter. He talks about owning a word inside somebody's mind or maybe a phrase in somebody's mind. If we talk about just do it, we know who that's related to. If we talk about overnight, there's words that brands have associated themselves with. Chiropractors have not done a good job associating themselves. Maybe spine to some extent there too, but most of us don't want to be known for spine. But then we get ourselves stuck in terms of, I look after athletes and pregnant mums and headaches and right. So really quickly, I would be focusing on a word or a phrase. Is it pregnancy care for chiropractic pregnancy care? Is it performance? Is it posture? Is it headaches? And again, another time, I consider myself a very principled, vitalistic, family wellness-based practice, and I love talking symptoms. But that's another conversation, and I can tell you why I like doing that too. So first of all, I want to be known for something in my community. You don't have the time, the budget, the manpower to be known for everything. That takes billion-dollar budgets, Nike, McDonald's, Apple, all those kind of things there too. The second thing that I would be doing is I would be then going about building relationships with people. I would be finding, where are my people? So if I'm wanting to, let's just go with the pregnancy chiropractic, like where are these people? There's yoga studios, online, obviously I could do it through there. I could talk to midwives, I could go to little shops in town and find out the ones that kind of sell little kiddie stuff. And so I would find out where they are. And then what I would do is, Zig Ziglar used to have a saying, he says, you can get everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. And so this only works if you do this authentically. If you're not going to follow through with this, I always wanted to be positioned in the center of the hub. I didn't need to deliver all the healthcare services for my patients, but I wanted to be the referral network. If they said to me, Angus, I'm looking for a yoga studio, now I can do some pregnancy yoga, where do I go? I knew where to go. If they wanted to find a health food store, I knew where to go. Massage, I knew where to go. And so I always found it very difficult to go up to somebody and introduce myself if it was about me. Hey, I'm the new chiropractor in town. I look after pregnant mums. If you ever have any pregnant mums, come and see, send them to me. It never felt good. But I could go to the yoga studio and say, hey, I'm a chiropractor. I look after lots of pregnant mums and I love yoga and I recommend it to all my mums, but I'm wanting to find a yoga studio that I can refer them to. Can you tell me a little bit about you? What do you do? And I genuinely want to find out if this is a yoga studio I want to send people to. Like, this is not a given for me. This is like, I'm going first. I have a conversation. And you can bet if it's not on that first visit, somewhere along the line, that person will find out more about me. Tell me about the work that you do. You do pregnancy work? This is farming, not hunting. And I think it might have even been Jason that introduced me to that term there, that this is not going to give you a new patient tomorrow, but it will give you new patients in a few months' time. And when you have an orchard out there of a health food store, the kiddos clothes shop, yoga studios, Pilates studios, when each of these people online, you're making content, build relationships that will never finish, regardless of whether you're doing it online, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's a relationship game, which is why some of your content has to be social. Be generous, go first, and double down on being known for one thing. That would be what I would obsess about for the next 6 months. And then the final part of that would be prepared to fail 100 times. Like, just lay it out there, be prepared. And sometimes I would say, would you be prepared if you could double your practice? Would you be prepared to fail 100 times? Epic fails, humiliation, shame, failure, rejection. Would you be prepared to have that? And a lot of people will say no. And then that opens the door for really fantastic coaching. Why? What does failure mean? What does humiliation mean? But they're the things that I would do. And I think they're the basics there, Jeff, that platform independent. Do those things. And obviously I'm a huge fan of video. So that would just speed the whole process up for you as you're going forwards and dovetail it into that. So I hope that's helpful.
Very helpful. We, due to the format of our show, we don't have a tremendous amount of time. I know we'd love to do this for hours because we are so aligned in so many ideas and so many topics. But let me ask you this, Angus. I love the fact that you speak to the emotions behind the actions, that it's not just what do I do? Like you said, plenty of people know a list of things they should do that they're not doing now. The question is why. So I think one of the major hurdles that many chiropractors have is they're not willing to be shamed and fail and look awkward and take those risks because they may not necessarily understand the benefit or the outcome from going through that journey. So maybe, do you have any either individuals or, general statements around what's the benefit of developing this skill? Most in the profession still live in, I think the word is absolutely accurate, the fantasy of being able to just have somebody send people in that are going to just all of a sudden love you and want to say yes to your care because they can spell and define subluxation. But most chiros are living in the fantasy. What did you found to be the benefit? What can you share with viewers about those docs that have made that shift, that are doing this consistently, that are sharing their message, not just advertising or marketing their deal, and how it's benefited them and their communities in the long run? What does a orchard or lots of seeds look like from your perspective and your experience?
Well, I think as we grow and expand in life, problems don't go away, Jason. We just get new problems. So what it looks like is you have the problem of how do I find more chiropractors to work for me? How do I employ new staff? And we get a higher quality problem. So at our practice, which I don't work at any longer there too, we don't suffer for patients. Our biggest struggle is finding good chiropractors to come and work for us. Now that's a struggle. It's a problem, but it's a much better problem than thinking about where's our next new patient going to come from. We also, our purpose as chiropractors is to make a difference to our community. And when we market, one of the things that we think about is help us find them. My marketing journey changed over 12, 14 years ago when I met a woman called Teresa who had migraine headaches and came in because of some marketing that we did. And like many, she got amazing results. And she had been through everything before. They tried a chemotherapy drug. I didn't realize that they would try chemotherapy drugs on people with migraines, but she did. And when she came into me, one of the things that really stuck with me, she said, I didn't realize that chiropractic could help with migraines. It wasn't that she was not choosing chiropractic. Sorry, she just wasn't that she was saying, I'm not going to see a chiropractor. Those guys are quacks. They're this, they're that. It was not even a possibility until I put it in front of her. And so I think that there is, to some extent, a moral requirement. We have a solution. We need to be putting it in front of people and building relationships and giving them the option. If they say no, then great. That's okay. We can deal with that, but we need to put it in front of them. There's also, when you understand, when you become what's often referred to as a rainmaker, that you can make it rain, your life becomes very different. When you know that there's something that you can do to build a practice, and maybe you want to move across one side of the town, maybe you want to move over the other side of the world. If you know that you can take your hands and buy a table, and that you know that you have a system, a philosophy, and understanding to build relationships, offer value, and make it rain, there's a freedom that comes with that. It's wonderful. So it will make people profitable. It brings impact into the world and the community. It brings freedom to them because they're no longer hamstrung in terms of what they can do as well. And it brings a high quality of problem. And so I want to be clear on that too. Problems don't disappear. I believe life is always 50-50, but I want to choose my problems. I want to choose a higher quality problem too. And marketing solves a lot of problems. Building relationships, positioning your practice as a place of value solves a lot of problems, Jason. So yeah.
I love it. I'm going to encourage every doc that has been listening and watching, please, this is an episode you're going to want to rewind, listen back through again. And Angus, we're going to drop links down below so everybody listening and watching can know exactly how they can connect with you, how they can learn more, become a part of your tribe. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing. It's been far too long. We won't let this much time go before we chat again. And thank you for sharing with our audience. It has been invaluable and we greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a great honor. I've talked a lot. Sorry for that. I appreciate you both more than I can communicate. Thanks for having me, and I hope we do get a chance to chat again real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching this video on the Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.